recording has been started. And just to have a quick recap on last session, we spoke about Azure subscription hierarchy, how the resources are getting provisioned, what are the components are involved. So, like you have your account, your organization email ID, then um, you have the directory, then you have the management groups. You can have more than one management group, and each management group contains the multiple subscriptions, and each subscription contains the multiple resource groups, and each resource group contains multiple resources. Why we create multiple management groups, multiple subscriptions, and multiple resource groups and resources, we discussed yesterday. There could be various requirements, like you have a production environment, non-production environment, and test environment, right? You wanted to segregate those environments using the resource groups or using the subscriptions, or you wanted to segregate the customers using the subscriptions, and using the management groups. That is why we created all of them. And we also discussed, if I am hiring somebody to manage the Azure environment, how do I give permissions? What are the approaches we have, right? What happens if I give in a subscription level? What happen if I give access in a resource group level, right? So those things we discussed in the last session. So before we move forward for today's session, anyone have any questions on the topic? Anyone have any questions on the previous topic? Okay,
No, we are good.
all right. So let's do one thing. So today, let's do little practice on the topics that we covered. Yesterday we didn't have the subscription, so I could not test anything. So I have a subscription today, where I'm going to show you how to assign the permissions in a subscription level, resource group level, and resource level. Okay, then I will also talk to you about how users are getting provisioned in the Azure, and what is the best practice that we follow, and what is the practice we follow in the day to day or enterprise, right? So what I will do, I am logging into the Azure portal. This is my Azure portal. Okay, and when I'm giving access to the resources, there are different ways I can give the access. Okay, I mean different types of users I can invite. One is cloud users. Okay, one is the cloud users, and the other one is the other users, I would say, Microsoft account users or guest users. Okay, they can be cloud users or guest users. All right, and other users types could be on premises AD users. So first I will explain you what it means, then I will go back to the practical part. Okay. When I say cloud users, you guys are very familiar with the Azure Active Directory now, right? And when you subscribe for the Azure subscription or Azure, you get a Azure AD directory. So let's say if your company is Contoso, then you get a Azure AD as or tenant or directory as contoso dot on microsoft.com. All right, this is what you get it. Now, if you want to create users in the Azure AD, so let's say I'm creating a user called Kamal. So the user account will be Kamal at the rate contoso dot on microsoft.com is the username. Okay, and I can give the password for it. Okay, once I give a user ID password, I can use this user ID password to log into Azure portal. Okay, which means that my user accounts are created in the cloud and I'm using them to log into the Azure portal. Okay, so sometimes your users might think this domain is not good. It's a very big UPN. I don't wanted to use this because I am working for a company called Contoso. I don't want it to have on Microsoft.com in my username. So what we do in generally, we do a custom domain verification. Okay, custom domain verification. When I say custom domain verification, Okay, you brought a domain from GoDaddy, right? The contoso.com is from GoDaddy account. So, or any other domain providers. I'm just saying I brought it from the GoDaddy. So contoso.com is brought it from the GoDaddy. What I need to do is I need to log into GoDaddy, add some MX record and host a records in the GoDaddy account. So where do I get this MX record, host a record? If I go to Azure AD, I have an option called custom domain verification. Okay, I'm going to use that to perform the custom domain verification. There I'm going to get the MX and host a records. I have to update this records in the GoDaddy account so that I can create user accounts directly with the contoso.com. Once I verified the domain, I can say Kamal at contoso.com. Okay, and account still created in the cloud itself. All right, this is account which is created in the Azure AD. This is one scenario. The other scenario is okay, you don't have any cloud user accounts, or you don't have any on-premises AD, or you don't wanted to use them. So you have a guest user. Let's say I'm inviting Hari, right? Hari, I want Hari to work on my company for some time. He's a freelancer. Freelancer. He's going to help us in some activities in my cloud project. So I'm going to invite Hari. Hari has an email. Let's say the email ID is hari at gmail.com. Okay. Let's say who's that? Josna, right? Josna um, at outlook.com, right? So some of them have different email. They are my freelancer or consultants who is going to help me in my project. What I can do is I am going to invite these guys into my directory as a guest users. They can use their Microsoft accounts, which is their Gmail account or Outlook.com, to log into the Azure portal to help me in my day-to-day project activities. They are like freelancers. That is the another type. So what happens is when I add their email IDs into my Azure portal, they will get an invitation from my directory, which is contoso.onmicrosoft.com. One, they have to accept the invitation. Once they accept it, they will log into the Azure portal. Once they log in, they can see the resources. The other one is on-premises AD users. So most of us are on this model. Okay. In most of the organizations are also in this model. So what it means when when you join any company, right? When you join any company, your IT team is going to provide you the username and password. You are going to use this username password to log into your laptop. Okay, log into your Outlook and Teams and different applications that you use in day to day, right? So that is the user account and password are managed in on premises, your own data center. Okay, Active Directory. So there will be a server called domain controller that holds a role called Active Directory Domain Services, so that maintains the user IDs and passwords of all the employees. Okay, so it will also maintains all the employees, what kind of permissions they have, right? So those user ID passwords it maintains, and the permissions also it maintains. So whenever a user is trying to log into any computer, so the AD will get authenticate them. Okay, and give them access. Since we are moving to the cloud, so what we are doing is we are exchanging this or extending, sorry, not exchanging, it is extending this AD to Azure AD. Okay, which means that whatever the user ID password you have here, those user ID passwords also be present in the Azure AD, so that the users can get access to Azure AD application and Azure subscription as well. Getting my point? So they will get access to the Azure AD applications and Azure subscription. So which means that you can use one user ID password to log into all cloud applications and your on-premises applications. That is the beauty of this on-premises AD users. We will also try to set up the domain controllers, and we'll try to create users, and we'll try to synchronize them to Azure AD. Then we'll give them access to Outlook, Teams, and we'll give them access to the Azure portal. We'll do all those labs in the upcoming sessions. Okay, for now you understood there are different types of users that can be present in the Azure AD. So let me show you in Azure portal how these cloud users are created, how these guest users are created. On-premise AD users we will not be able to show you now because we need to have a domain controller setup. We have to synchronize them to the cloud. Okay, first you need to go to Azure AD. Hope you can see my Azure portal now. Okay, you need to go to Azure portal, then search for Azure Active Directory. Then you can just look for here Azure AD. Okay, this is what Azure AD. So when I brought this subscription, I got this as a primary tenant name on Microsoft.com. Okay, so what I want to show you is I will go to the users. Okay, here you see guest users, few guest users here. All right, few guest users you can see, and there are few member users. Okay, and I can also create there is something called directory synced. So when I say directory synced, it says no, which means that they are not synchronized from AD on-premises AD. Okay, if they are from the on-premises AD users, they will say directory synchronizes yes. Okay, and this is the Microsoft account, which is the guest account. Um, these are the guest accounts. So let me create one user account in the cloud. Click on new user. While creating a new user, there are two options: create user, invite user. Invite user is nothing but the guest user that I am talking. Create user is something that I'm creating the user account in the Azure AD. Now you can see when I'm creating the user account, I'm getting this UPN or a domain name. Let's say if I create a user account with the name of Akhil. Okay, so it's creating a username as Akhil at vbkkmaoutlook.onmicrosoft.com. So let me just proceed further. Akhil is the name, and password you can just choose or auto generate. This is the auto generated password. Okay, let me just copy them into a notepad. And there are different groups and there are different user roles. I'm going to give him the global administrator so that he can add others as a users here. Okay, I'm going to add this. And usage location, I'm trying to ask him to log in from India. He will be working from India location, and his title is Senior Cloud Engineer, and department is Cloud Services. Company name is VBH IT Solutions. Okay, and managers I'm not going to add. So this is how we create user account in the cloud. Now we can see his account will be created here. Okay, and it says member. So member is nothing but this is not synchronized. This is from Azure AD. Okay, and you can see the UPN. Akhil can use this user account to log in. Let me use this account to log into the Azure portal. Let me log in portal.azure.com. I'm going to his email ID or a user ID. You see things have changed. We also can make some customization in the background. We can also make some changes in this. So I'm going to use this password. I'm giving the password. For the first time, he has to change the password. I'm just adding one at the end for this one. Okay, now he is logged into the Azure portal, guys. Okay, when he logged in, when I'm searching for subscription, okay, it is showing nothing. But he has got access to the Azure. What it means, you are a user in this directory. You are just a user in this directory. Okay, as we discussed yesterday, your user accounts are provisioned in the Azure AD. Okay, but if you need to give access to any other cloud services like Microsoft Azure, you need to go to subscription and give them access. If you wanted to give access to the Office 365, you need to go to Office 365 and give access. Likewise, you need to go to them. Right now, I have given him as access to Azure AD where he can create new users. Okay, if I go to the Azure AD, okay, I'm in Akhil's account. Okay, I'm going to users. You can see all the users, but he cannot see the subscriptions. He can add new user account as well. Let's say I'm going to add another user called Hari. Okay, I'm going to create another user called Hari, and I'll just go with the default options for now. Hari account is created. He's able to create. Okay, but he cannot see anything. So let me log in with the Hari's account. All right, let me log in with Hari's account now. Because Hari is not a global administrator, right? We just added him without any role. His role is just a user. There's nothing else we have given to him. He's just a user. He's not the global administrator, but Akhil is the global administrator, right? Akhil is the global administrator. Okay, so one moment. Here Akhil is the global administrator, but Hari is not the global administrator. So let me log in with the Hari's account. I'm going to Azure AD, going to get the user account, Hari's account. This is the Hari's account. Okay, I need to give the password for the Hari. So I need to reset the password. I did not copy the password. Okay, so let me log in here. Now it is again asking for the password reset for Hari's account, because for the first time, as you know, it will ask you to reset the password. Now Hari is able to log into the Azure portal. He still cannot see the subscriptions. Okay, but if I go to Azure AD with the Hari's account, okay, if I go to the users, he can see the users, but you see guys, new user account option is degraded. Okay, it is degraded. He cannot add a new user in this directory, but Akhil is able to add. If I go to Akhil account, okay, this is Akhil's account, right? Akhil is able to add other users, and his new user account option is highlighted because Akhil is the global administrator. Okay, and Hari is not the global administrator, is just a user. Okay, now we're able to follow the differentiations, guys. Okay, so I'm just
Yes.
making a note here. We have created two users. One is Akhil and the other one is Hari. Okay, Akhil is the global admin. Okay, admin in Azure AD. Okay, Hari is the user in Azure AD. Okay, first scenario, uh, you know, he don't have access to Azure portal, Azure subscription. Okay, for the first time, even Hari also do not have access to Azure subscription. Correct? You both agree? You guys agree with me, right? So now, though Hari do not have access to the Azure AD, I have access to Azure AD as a user. He's not a global administrator. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add Hari to Azure subscription as a owner. Okay, so I'm going to my account now with my credentials. I'm going to subscriptions. I'm in the subscription blade. I'm going to access control. I'm going to add role assignment, selecting the owner and selecting the members. Now here I should be able to see Hari's account. Okay, I'm giving access to Hari and assign. So now, though he is just a user in Azure AD, but now he is the owner of the subscription. Let's see that. Okay, access has been granted to Hari. Now I will go to Hari's account. This is Hari account. You can see guys here. I'm going to refresh here. I will go for subscriptions. You see, Hari has got access to subscription. Earlier, he don't have access to subscription, right? So you need to understand one thing here, okay? Azure AD permissions, okay? Azure AD permissions are different from subscription permissions, okay? Though you are just a user in the Azure AD, okay, but you are owner of the subscription. Here in the Akil, though he's a global administrator, he can add n number of users to the Azure AD, but he don't have access to the subscription. You got the difference, right? So these two permissions are different. Okay, so it is like a, you need somebody to create user accounts, you need somebody else to give access to the some of the specific applications, right? It is like that. You guys are getting my point. So Azure AD is the key point here, where it store all user IDs passwords. Later you are going to give access to these users to different applications. Here Azure subscription is one example, and another application could be Office 365, other application could be Exchange here. Okay, there can be different applications that we are going to give access, but first the user account has to be exist, right? The user account has to be exist if I wanted to give access to any one of them. The user account can be a user, maybe he can be a global administrator. Is it clear to everyone? Yeah, is it clear? Any
Yes,
questions so far?
yes, yes, it's clear.
Okay, so now let's do one thing. So far what I am doing is I'm creating user accounts, okay, with the my complete on Microsoft.com domain name, okay, but I don't wanted to have this. I wanted to create with my own domain. So I will show you how to validate or how to verify your domain with the Azure AD. So I am in Azure AD. If I scroll down, I have something called custom domain names. Okay. Here you see this is a default domain I am seeing. I wanted to use my domain, which I brought it from the GoDaddy account. First, what I will do, I'll log into GoDaddy account and I will show you what is my account. I think I remember password. Let me just check. So guys, right now what we are doing is we are setting up the environment, right? So we just got a subscription. We are just trying to learn what is the subscription and how is the hierarchy, how the resources are deployed, and how we provide access to the users. And if you want to provide access to the users, what are the different approaches we have? So that is what we are learning here. Okay. So once we learn, which means that you got access to the Azure, you know how to play with Azure, right? How to log in, who can access, how can they access. Once you know them, then you are going to get into the project where you are going to start creating the resources like virtual machines, backups, DRs, VPNs, all those things. Then you will start learning them. Okay. Think let me click on sign my products. Okay. Looks like it is auto signed in. So I brought two domains, guys. One is vvhitsolutions.com. The other one is the this is the domain. kamalakarkamsani.com is my domain name. Okay. Once I log in, I go to the domain settings or manage DNS. Here, this is where I'm going to add the records. So what I need to do is I copy this domain name. Okay. I'll go here. I click on add custom domain. All right. So I click on add domain. Now the domain is added here. Okay. If I go here, you see the status. Domain is unverified. I have to verify with the my domain provider. For that, what I need to do is I click on this. I have to add txt record. Sorry, I mentioned a record, not the host a record. It is txt records and mx records. These two records I have to update in my GoDaddy account. For that, what I need to do is I logged into my GoDaddy account. I logged into my domain. I'm going to add a record here. Click on add, select the record. What kind of record I need to add? Txt record, right? Txt record. And alias or host name is what? At the rate. It should be at the rate. And the value string, this is the value string. Okay. And there is something called TTL. TTL by default, it will take 1 hour. Okay. Here it says 3600. I think we should be fine with the 1 hour, and click on add record. Okay. Host and TXT record is added. The next we have to add MX record. I've just clicked on MX record. I'm getting the values here. So I'm going to click on add record, and let's say MX record. Okay. Name, it should be always at the rate, and the destination or points to address is this one. So here I'm going to add at the rate, and here it should be the one, and priority number also it is given here. Let's check that. And the TTL is by default, we can go with the 1 hour or default values. Click on add records. Okay, team. So now we added both of them. Both records are added. What I need to do is sometimes it takes 72 hours to update, but 90%, 99% I've seen it is immediately updating. So I can confidently click on verify now. It's verifying the domain. It goes to the domain providers and validate. Okay. Now you see both the domains are verified. All right. So what I can do is if I click on this, this is the primary domain, which means when I'm creating a user account, by default, it will show me. If I want this to be a primary, I just need to click on make it as a primary. Okay. So now this is the primary. Let me do one thing. Let me go to the users and create a new user account. So this time we'll create a new user account. Okay. Let's say new user account I'm going to create as a Sagar. You can see here it's giving the domain name. Okay. Let's say Sagar. And I'm going to get this password saved. Okay. And I'm going to just add the user role, nothing else. And job title is a cloud engineer. And the cloud service is the department, because earlier we used to say IT department. Now, since you are moving to the cloud, so there's no IT, we will just say cloud services. Company is VBH IT Solutions. Just create it. Okay, I'm going to see here. This is your domain name. Usually this kind of domains that you use it to log into your company, right? So this is the username and the password. All right. So now what I will do is I will use his account to log in. Okay, let me do portal.azure.com. Sorry, I have to use this name. Even you guys can log in now with this account. I'm giving the password, resetting the password. Okay, I'm able to log in. Even you can log in with this password. I'm going to share the password here. This is the password. And the username is this. You can log into Azure portal with this. This is the username. Okay. Now he is just a user in subscription Azure AD, and he don't have access to the subscriptions. Now I am going to hire him as a cloud engineer. So I need to give him access to the Azure subscription. So what I will do, I'll go to subscriptions. I'll go to access control here. Click on add role assignment. I'm going to add as a owner. Members, I'm going to say Sagar. Right? So this how we add the user records. Now you guys are able to understand, right? What we are doing is, so far we spoke about the cloud users only. Okay, this part we spoke about it. We discussed about this. We have Azure AD. When when we subscribe for the Azure, we got this tenant or a directory contessor.onmicrosoft.com, and we created user accounts initially with this tenant directly. Later we added a, we added this user account to Azure subscription, and we tested with the global administrator and user permissions. Then later we added them to we did a custom domain verification. Now we are able to create with their own domain name. Okay, so far I've introduced you to only to Azure AD users or cloud users only. Okay, so let me show you one more thing here. Okay, it is clear, and now I gave access to him. And let me go to subscriptions here. I will do a refresh here. He's able to see the subscription. Now let me go back to my account. This is my account. Okay, I will show you few things here. Okay, we have 3 user accounts for testing. Okay, I will show you one thing. So this users, if I go to access control, go to the role assignments, you can see who all are have access to this subscription. Okay, you see Akhil has access, Hari has access, Sagar has access. Okay, these users have access as a owner. And where they have access, this resource. When I say this resource, I am into the subscription lead, which means they have access to the subscription as a owner. You getting my point? Now let me do one thing. Let me go to resource groups. Okay, I will go to the resource groups. I'll go to one of the resource group. Let's say DevOps RG. This is my resource group. I'll go to the access control here, go to the role assignments, and what I'm saying, I'm going to check here. Hari account is there. He's the owner, but the scope you can see it is inherited from the subscription. Able to follow the yesterday's discussion? Whatever you add in resource subscription, they will be inherited to the resource groups and its resources. Now we checked in the resource group. I will go to resources in this resource group and I'll check it. I'm going to one of the virtual machine, which is part of this resource group. I click on this virtual machine, go to the access control, go to the role assignment. And if you look at this again, owner, but inherited from the subscription. So let's do one thing. Now I'm going to add uh, Akhil to DevOps RG only to this resource group. Okay. Right now, Akhil don't have access to any subscription, right? Any resource groups, but there are multiple resource groups here. But out of them, I'm going to add him to only one resource group. Okay. And what permission I'm going to add, I will show you. Click on add role assignment. I'm going to add him as a contributor. Okay. Select members and I'm going to say search for Akhil. So this is the account. All right. I have added access to a specific resource group. He will not be part of the subscription. He is only have access to one specific resource group, and he will be able to see all its resources. Now let me do one thing. Let me do some refresh here. Okay, you can see Akhil is added here, okay, as a contributor. But what is the scope here? This resource, which means only for this resource group, is not from subscription, but others you see, right? They are inherited from the subscription. If I go to one of the resource in this resource group, let's say this is virtual machine. Okay. If I go to access control, role assignments. Okay. Now you see Akhil account says contributor, but it is inherited from the resource group. Able to follow the yesterday's recording, right? Yesterday's session. So we discussed this. If you assign a resource group, the permissions are inherited to the all the resources within that resource group. Now let me do one thing. Let me log into Akhil's account. Okay. Let me log into Akhil's account. I'll just sign out from here. portal.azure.com. And what is his email ID? Let me check from here. I'll go to Azure Active Directory, users. and this is the ID, right? And what is the password? I think this is the first one is the Akhil's password, I believe. Let's check this. Yes, that's correct. Now I am able to log in to Azure portal with Akhil's account. If I go to subscription, I can see subscription now. I mean, Akhil can see subscription and his role is nothing, resource access, and current cost, he cannot see anything. Now, if I go to resource groups, you see, you can only see one resource group. You cannot see anything else. But actually, there are many resource groups in the subscription. You see, there are many resource groups, around 12 resource groups, but he can see only one specific resource group because he got access to only one specific resource group. Because let's say this is the DevOps related RG resource group where DevOps related agents and services will be hosted. So because he's a DevOps guy, so he's going to manage only this. And he got a contributor access. He don't have access to, as a owner. Okay, you guys know what is contributor and what is owner, right? So you see you will be able to do all operations here. Now you can start the machine. Akhil is able to start the machine. You can delete the machine. You can do a number of operations. Okay, so this is how the permissions, and so far we discussed only cloud users. Okay, we gave access to cloud users and they are able to manage. Same thing with the Microsoft accounts and guest accounts, and the same with the on-premises AD users. In the next session, what we are going to do is we are going to integrate, we are going to set up the domain controller, we are going to create user accounts in the Active Directory, we are going to synchronize these user accounts to the cloud, which is Azure AD. Then again, we are going to perform the similar operations. But this time, it's not only giving access to Azure portal, we will also try to get a Office 365 license. We'll also try to get some, setup like Windows Virtual Desktop and try to give them access to Windows Virtual Desktops. We'll do something real time so that you know the workflow, right? It's not only for in the organization, you not only see the Azure subscription, right? You might see Office 365, you might see Windows Virtual Desktop. Nowadays, everybody's working from home. We'll try to give you set up that environment so that you have some idea on how users are accessing in the cloud and how what is the source of users, whether they are from on-prem and Azure, or guest accounts. You will get some more clarity on it. Okay, guys. So I'm going to stop it for now, because I don't wanted to add more content in the initial days, because most of them are very new. We'll go slowly for few sessions, only for 40 sessions, 40 minutes or 45 minutes. Then we'll slowly increase once you guys are, are confident on these sessions. Okay. Any questions so far, team? We can use this time for a Q&A.
Nothing from my end.
All right. I just need some help. First, let me stop the